Hey hotties, have you been missing new Process Party episodes and want more behind the scenes scoops?
It's all over on our Patreon. Our loyal hotties get exclusive episodes, live workshops, and our best unedited and unfiltered conversations for just $10 a month.
And if that's not enough, it's super easy to subscribe and there's no long-term commitment.
Learn more and subscribe at patreon.com/HYDC.
Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
I'm Rebecca Plum, your big sister.
And I'm Shaun, your GBF.
We're not that hot or that young,
but we believe it's a state of mind that helps us build adaptable and profitable businesses.
We rely on the support of our design besties to get through each day.
So let's explore the emotional, practical, and humorous sides of being interior designers.
Welcome to the club. Hey, Shaun.
What's up, Rebecca?
Let's welcome our friend Ashley Ausland.
Hello. Hi.
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, guys.
So, full disclosure, we know Ashley IRL. I've gotten the joy of being able to go to market with her a few times. She's based in the LA area. But Ashley, do you want to tell us a little bit, just your top level bio, and we'll get into some stuff?
Yes. Well, I know we were in our accountability group together. Do you guys remember that?
Oh,
in the way back times.
In the COVID era, when you guys were so organized and accountable, and I'd show up late to the accountability group.
Well, you had many reasons to be distracted during that era. So.
Yeah.
You did, and we will talk about that.
Yeah. So I'm Ashley. And I am based in LA, and my firm, Ausland Interiors, we specialize in ground-up construction and major remodels. And I have a team of 4 women that work for me in Hermosa, and it's pretty awesome. So that's the
Congratulations.
top level.
You have grown so much since those early pandemic times, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, working out of my garage, yes.
Yeah, you didn't really have consistent help. And
Ashley, your team has changed a lot in just the last 4 years too.
Yes, very much so. I've come from my garage with nobody, just me and some kids running around. And now I have 4 women who I love and adore. And we sit together every day at a conference table and we talk a lot of shit, and we talk about our kids, and we talk about our clients, and we talk about our struggles, and we lean on each other a lot. And my team's seen me cry quite a bit, actually. It's a very safe place. Okay. And I love what I've cultivated, because one of the number one reasons why I got into business for myself was because when I had my second baby, I realized there was no way that I could work for somebody else. I needed autonomy to come and go to doctor's appointments and pickups and whatever. And so I realized that I wanted to have an environment where women felt like I can leave at any time to go take care of my kids or go to the grocery store, or if I get my work done in a certain time, they're not micromanaged. There's not a set come in and clock out time. So I love that. I feel like it's so beneficial for everybody all around. We have a very good work-life balance at my team. So it's lovely.
And what do their roles look like?
So I hired an assistant who does the emailing and the follow-up with all of that stuff, which was a game changer for me because I was trying to do all that. She's amazing, and she's in design school. So hopefully she's going to, get on board and start doing design work as well. And then the other 3 ladies are design assistants, and they manage projects, and they do CAD, and they do, material selections and client meetings and, everything. They're amazing. They are my lifelines. I could not do it without any of them.
And are they full-time?
Yeah, it's a hybrid, full-time, part-time. It's not, I think one of them is technically full-time, but honestly, it's week to week. If listen, I have to be in the classroom this week on Friday, I'm not going to be there. Then that week they just work, 4 days or whatever. I'm pretty flexible.
If there's work to be done, they'll do it that day.
Yes,
and if it's
100.
hey, cool, a half day off, let's do it.
Yeah.
I love that idea of cultivating a safe environment, because it is hard, and it's hard being business owner and having your boss hat on but also knowing what it's like to be on the other side. And like, we have to drop things. I mean, when I see that
Shit
school,
happens.
when I see that school number come up on my phone in the middle of the day, it's
Yeah, the ID.
fuck.
Yeah. Yep.
What
Yeah.
did she
Like,
forget
what
her water
now?
bottle, or it did something? Is it the principal? Like, you just don't know.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
has been both lately. But yeah, and you just have to be able to drop everything and to have a team and hopefully clients that just understand what that's like. Like that's like super important to me too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are only as good as what's going on outside of our life. Like that's such a
Right.
huge influence on the inside workings of the business. So it's just very important to have the balance, I think, as much as possible.
Mhm.
And I think like really reflects the work we're doing with our clients. Like we're in the most intimate setting of their life, their home.
Mhm.
And we need to be creating and cultivating an environment that they feel comfortable and safe in. So it just makes sense that it's all in the same vibes. Like
Right.
we all
Yeah,
want to
we're
be
all in the
around each
same
other.
boat, you know?
Right.
Is that something you set out with when you brought on like that first person who joined you? Or was it like, I don't know, I'm just going to figure this out? Like Wild Wild West? Like what was that? How intentional was building that?
It's always a little Wild West at my studio for sure. Like that's never going to change. I'm like I say, I'm like the most unprofessional professional. I'm just very like I really don't have any business running a business because I'm just learning a lot as I go. Like I've learned every step of the way. So when I hired my first employee, it was really out of desperation. It was like my girlfriend moved back from Pittsburgh and we used to be design assistants together. And I was like, hey girl, I'm dying. Do you want to come work for me? You know, because she was trying to get a job with our old employer. I was like, no, come work with me. And then I didn't know what to tell her what to do. But we just sat together every day and we just figured it out. And I was like, this is what I need help with. And we just figured it out together. There was no like rule book that I was following or,
No
like
employee handbook.
no
Yeah.
employee handbook. It was just figuring it out on the fly.
She's like your road dog though.
Yes.
Like she was just like, okay, I'm in it just as much as you are. Like we're friends. Like I'm not going to leave you hanging high or dry, but also she knew you're not going to leave her out there. And so it kind of makes it easier to feel like almost like a partnership
For
probably at
sure.
that point in time for the two of you, right?
Yeah, and we were friends, so that helped. If I had hired her, I would have felt a little bit more intimidated not being so organized, but it was
Yeah.
my friend, so it was easy and I got fortunate that she knew what she was doing, quite honestly.
Yeah. Because we hear just as many of the horror stories, I'm sure. And it's like, yeah, it's hit or miss. Like everybody handles it differently, or it could work out or not. Like
And
Yeah, I
you
know.
had to.
she didn't need you to be her day-to-day boss of every single
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, she didn't even need a job really. She was just her kids were in school and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to work," So it worked out.
Ideal.
Yeah.
So do you have any of the, I don't know, employee handbooky kind of stuff in place now? Like, do you have like internal processes more?
You know what? It's funny that you say that because that's been on the perpetual to-do list for,
Yeah.
actually, this is my 10th year as this month, May. I just realized that
Oh,
recently. But this
wow.
is my 10th
Wow.
month as the 10th year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So you would think that I would have a handbook, but no, I don't really technically. I think I have like a skeleton somewhere, but like I said,
No, it's like a whole thing to create it. I
Yeah.
definitely see the value of it, but like you have to like go away for 5 days to write it, I would
yeah,
feel
to
like.
focus.
Or
Yeah,
hire.
or hire somebody. And I think we have a template and I think it's somewhat, but nobody's ever read it and signed it and passed it back and been like, I got it, so.
Someday. I love your like casual approach to it. Like whenever I picture you, it's like at market, you're like, I've got 48 hours. I'm gonna hit the ground running. I have a beer in you have a beer in hand.
Yeah,
You're
A
like
probably
bathtub
true.
running.
schedule later.
Yeah, like you're just like running through the show to get as much done as you can. I mean, sometimes you don't even have 48 hours. I feel like you're like,
I did it in 12 this year, 12 hours.
oh yeah.
That's
So
like that 1 hour one or that one day when Rebecca and I did. And Rebecca got caught, couldn't get a flight back. Home got canceled at like the 5 o'clock flight. And then I ended up getting pushed to like a 10 o'clock flight or something. And I had, instead of coming back to Long Beach, I had to go to LAX. And I was like, I will never do just one day in Vegas again. It was so
Yeah,
tiring.
it's exhausting. Yeah, but I don't have
Well,
the choice. I don't have the luxury. I have to get back
no.
and pick up my kids.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, so you have 4 children
Yes, ma'am.
under the age of
11
12?
is my oldest. She just turned 11 a couple months ago.
God
So it's
bless.
11, 10. He's not even 10 yet. 11, 10, 8, and 6.
Okay, so what I really love about your Instagram content, for instance, is just your transparency. You've had a lot thrown at you in the last few years, and you just like bring your whole person, like kind of what we were talking about. You really do live it and share it, and I think it's really important to share as much as people are willing to the kind of the dark underside of like life, because then we just feel less alone. So I don't know, what do you feel comfortable like sharing about your story of like what's gone on for you the last few years?
I mean, like I said, I'm a pretty much an open book, and I've learned that for my own healing and my own benefit, it's actually easier for me to just say it out loud and say it once and publicly and move through it that way rather than operating from a place of like pain and suffering and like people don't know what's going on, because we all live in hard moments,
Yeah.
and the last 2 years of my life have been the hardest, the most challenging, but the most transformative as well.
Mhm.
And I'm super grateful for all the hard that I've experienced, because it's gotten me to such a better place personally and professionally. And it just, a lot of perspective has come out of it. And I don't mind sharing that 2 years ago, my then husband left me for another woman right in the middle of cancer treatments. I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and it was all literally within the same 6-week time span. And then I had a hysterectomy 2 weeks after I discovered that this was all happening. And so, and I have 4 little kids and I have a business, and I was just really sidelined for a minute. And it was a good period of time where I just sat on the bench of life and I just tried to like go through the motions, and I relied heavily on my team. If it wasn't for
Mhm.
those ladies, the business, I'm not quite sure what would have happened. Although I was present and I could have made decisions, but like things kind of just crumbled a little bit. But like I said, I'm really grateful for all of it, because and publicly sharing it has been one of the greatest gifts for me. And equally, I've had hundreds of women reach back out to me on Instagram thanking me because of my willingness to be open. They were able to share their story with me and
Mhm.
heal little parts of themselves, and just like you said, feel regular and relatable, and that we all go through something so hard, and you don't have to bear the burden alone. You can alleviate some of that heaviness and know that you're not in it alone.
Totally. And
100%.
like the internalized shame, I think, is something that, I mean, I kind of feel like it's generational a little bit. Like, I think it's getting better with time. And the more like, I think
Mhm.
social media has helped with that, where we can like share these stories, hear these stories, and realize, okay, I'm still a good person. Like, I mean, I've personally been divorced before, and this was pre-internet, so there wasn't a lot to really talk about, or a place to talk about it. But I felt a ton of shame, and like I knew a lot of it came from. I mean, my family was there for me, but just historically, I don't know. It's just I felt
Mhm.
like this. I did something really bad,
Right,
and
like
it's embarrassing.
it's a failure of
Yeah.
like if it's not a successful till you die marriage, then it must be a failure. Like there is no
Right.
it's yes or no, and that's really like a really fucked up way to look at relationships and like all of it. It's a
Yeah, and
terrible way.
as a
It's either pass or
person,
fail. Like
and just like
Yeah.
embarrassing. I mean, I was really young. And also, like, on top of that, you're dealing with the actual pain of what you're going through, and then to feel this, like, isolation and, like, you did something wrong, even though somebody did something to you. Like, maybe I made some bad decisions, but I don't know. Some of those incidences were not in my control, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's very, very helpful, and the internet gets a bad name in a lot of ways, but I think this has helped society and like women really feel stronger.
Yeah, I think so. It's a collective group that have experienced something very similar to what I've experienced, you know? And so
So terrible, like truly terrible when you realize like everyone can compare notes like that. And so many women are coming to you and they're like, yeah, like men are dicks. Like,
yeah, it was
like
really,
truly.
I was shocked with how many women were like, I've been you, I've been in that position. I know how you feel. You're going to get past it, which I am 100%. Like I've forgiven my ex. I don't want like, I don't want to like shame him, you know, like I feel sorry for him that he had to go through what he had to go through as well. But you know, and he's the father of my kids, and I finally, literally last month, came to a place of forgiveness for him and was able to speak to him after 2 years. So, but I did go through a process of I couldn't even look at him, but I've healed that part of me. So it's great, you know, but
So are you telling us to put our pitchforks away? Is that
like our revenge plots? We're gonna.
yeah, I feel, honest to God, I feel, like I said, I feel so grateful. And I feel sorry. I feel sorry for him in a sense, you know, and that he
He's the
also
villain.
had to,
Yeah, he's got to live with that.
it's a bummer. You know, he did that. Like I didn't do it.
Mhm.
He did that. And I don't want it to be any worse for him because I know that that was a shitty time for both of us, but you know,
The
not
timing could have
forgetting
been
and just,
better.
yeah, that there's things that I'll never be able to be like okay with, you know, but
Yeah.
it you know, and I don't think he will either, but at the end of the day, I mean,
That's what happened.
yeah, and
Mhm.
I don't want to harbor any animosity. It's just not good.
And it feels like a really like enlightened place to come from when you're saying that now to be in that place. Do you think you could have imagined saying that 2 years ago?
Yeah, I could have actually. I
Ooh.
didn't want to ever, like, I didn't think I'd ever be like, oh, we're going to be friendly again. But I knew I didn't want it. And my goal was forgiveness always
Yeah.
because I just didn't want to live with it, you
Yeah,
know?
because you're carrying that around on
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that.
For what
So,
it's worth, because I was a child of I hate saying I was a child of divorce, but like yes. I
Me
don't know
too.
what's another like I was just relaying this to a friend who has a very close friend who's going through a divorce and it's like really tearing up a lot of stuff and they have to rethink who they are as people and then it's also her kids are involved. But I feel like like it's just shocking to think about how resilient kids are and also like the power of you being able to like forgive your ex is also really valuable for your children
mhm.
to have and like to see that that is possible and hopefully for them to find a way to like forge a relationship that isn't just based on like your perspective and like that makes a big difference because like they have to figure out for themselves the types of relationships they want to develop with each of their parents and it's really hard to do that sometimes. So I think like I know you thought of your children when doing that and I know you thought about yourself too, but like they're inextricably tied together. Like
For
you
sure.
had to do it for yourself and you had to do it for them.
Yeah.
And it's like really, it's like you won't know how that works out. And then you just kind of like, Jesus, take the wheel. Like from here on out, they're gonna figure out how they make their relationships within the family. You guys will figure out different normal situations and they're still gonna be not. And I know you talked about that too, of like vacations are different and planning spring break is different and all of like your whole life changes around you. And I really appreciate that you're not letting your business dictate how you get through your life. Cause I think we get pushed that like, let me just let my business tell me like I'm not doing this right or I have to be a badass boss bitch all the time. And but that's just like it's not it feels inhumane like
Yeah,
to
for
work
sure.
that way for ourselves and to have created this business the way that we want and create
Yeah.
lifestyles for other people but yet we're not allowed to live it ourselves. It feels really weird.
Yeah. And I think for the last 2 years, I got a lot of shit from people saying, just make up and be nice and pretend to speak to him and pretend to like be okay in front of the kids. And
Mm.
he really, I know I talk about Judge Judy's a lot on my Instagram. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, the only Judy I ever had was him. He was the only Judy that ever said any of the things. I never had
Oh,
anybody on the gram telling me, da, 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 da. He was the sole Judy. And he was the one
interesting.
saying, you know, why you're doing something in front of the kids. And it was like that. You have to put your oxygen mask on before you put the kids one.
Uh-huh.
And that's how
Mhm.
it's been for 2 years. And it's kind of the same thing with business. Like I operate a certain way and I don't listen to whatever, the trends are doing and
The
saying, and people
norms.
are, it's hard to not get caught up in that, but it really isn't, because it's like, this is my life and I'm going to do what works, best for me,
Damn
at
right.
the end of the
Yeah, like
day.
it's some days are easier, like you show, like you have 1 to 2 kids in the background of your studio, like
Yeah,
rolling
I
around on
know.
the furniture. And
Fucking shit
but
up.
that's
Yeah.
the
Jumping on the
chaos
stuff.
Yep.
sometimes you have to just work through. Like you're just getting your shit done and they are doing what they have to do. And
Yeah. And they're seeing mommy overcome something very tough. And they've seen me crying and they've seen me struggle. And I've told them, mommy's going to be all right. I'm going to do this and I'm going to get through it. And this is what people do. Not even just women. This is what people do. We get through things and we take care of our stuff and we are okay at the end of the day. We might crumble for a few hours, but we're going to like get back up and we're going to be okay. And it was always like this, like just perseverance, like that I just had to get through it to show them that like, we're going to do it,
yeah, I think it's really important for them to see us kind of fall a little bit sometimes, but the getting back up, like that to me is like what I'm always trying to teach my daughter is you're never going to do it perfect the first time. Like it's the trying and the continuing on that is like the hardest thing to learn how to do, but the most important because there's going to be struggles that come at us.
Yeah.
How do you feel like, I mean, I feel like you're a stronger person now. Like, do you feel like they're seeing that? Do you feel that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Because I am. I mean, I feel like I've climbed Mount Everest, and I I think once I'm at the top of it, and now it's kind of like now you focus on like healing and trauma for 2 years, and you're so caught up in that you have to now adjust to like, okay, what is that? How does that translate to forever? You can't live in a heightened place for so long of healing, and once you heal, you're like, okay, I gotta apply this, and like you kind of have to,
Yeah.
Integrate it.
yeah.
How and physically you're doing well?
Great. A hysterectomy,
Yay.
let me tell you. Birth control. No more children for me.
Permanent.
It's pretty,
Okay, good.
there's some silver linings. I don't, like I don't have the women things anymore, and
Yeah.
I still have my ovaries. So I still have my hormones regular. So it's honestly, I'm very fortunate. I had the best case scenario.
Of the
So,
worst
and a
case,
lot
yeah.
a lot of good has come out of it.
Okay, good.
So yeah, but health wise, I'm great.
I like reflecting on this to think about the outward growth that like I observe like on Instagram of like what you've been doing with Ausland Interiors and how that's been changing so much. It's wild to me to imagine all of that happening in the same timeline of everything you just described.
I
Like
know.
truly. Like just like
I know.
like someone else could have totally edited all of that out online somewhere and just pretended everything was great. And like a lot of the times I don't know if this happens. I feel like this happens probably to a lot of designers. People go, "Well, how do you do it? How are you doing it? How can you possibly?" And like among designers, we all ask each other that. And like the truth is, it's not this is life. Like it is a struggle. It is frustrating. We're exhausted. We're tired. We let people down. We miss a deadline. Something needs to be pushed constantly. Like that's just and that I just feel like to live in a place where you try to create a narrative that like that's not okay to be that way is just really like losing sight of reality for
Yeah.
people.
The
And
humanism in it all.
Being a human.
yeah,
Yeah. It's okay to not be okay,
yeah. And I think it's good to celebrate like what you have accomplished because I've watched you go from like when you started, you were like single room in it. Like
Like
probably
selling
most designers
vintage a lot,
do.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Slang and vintage. Yeah. Smaller remodels, which God, those were the good old days. But yeah, it was definitely a smaller scale and just a different style. And it was like I was like a mom with like a hobby almost mentality where it was like they knew that the kids were first, which is still this case, but it's like when I put the babies to bed, I'll just work on your project, and it was just real casual and there was no formality to anything. And that was really great. And then it just evolved and evolved. And I had no intention of it evolving and evolving. I really didn't. I was just going to be cool with that. But, more people called and I said yes to more and bigger things came. And it's
Kids went to
just kind of,
school?
yeah, kids went to school. It's organically grown into something really awesome. And I feel fortunate for it, for sure.
So what do your projects look like now? Like
a lot of ground ups. We've actually just wrapped a couple this year. 3 of them are about to be done. And that's exciting. It's 3 years of projects with like each project is at least 3 years. And yeah. And it's a long time. It's a long time. And you have to really love your clients and you have to, and not all of them you do. And some of them you just, you do your best. And I'm sure it's an equal thing. We're human, right? We're not all meant to be in relationships forever.
Like they probably feel it too sometimes where they're like, look, we're going to get through this remodel. It's going to be beautiful. We're not married to Ashley for the next 40 years.
And I'm like, yeah, I got it. I know, it's hard not to take it personal, but we're not all compatible, at the end of the day. And you don't figure that out until the budget's $1 million over and you're getting blamed for it. It's kind of, sometimes those things happen.
Damn, more money, more problems.
A little bit. Biggie said it best.
So what's your process like to try to vet clients? Because you're committing 3 years. I can do a kitchen for 4 months and be like, okay, I'm in and I'm out basically, but 3 years.
Yeah, that's like the minimum.
That's a different
nowadays.
decade you'll be in when you're done. Possibly.
Yeah, my kids might be graduated by that point, So it's really, it's hard. You don't, sometimes looking back, the red flags are there. I had a client who redlined my contract. I should have been like, that's a red flag. I think I'm going to pass on that, but I didn't.
Personality, yeah.
I didn't. Yes. And I didn't do it. And I should have passed on that. You listen to that little intuition. And I know we always say at some point in your career, you're like, you take a job because you need to take a job. Mm-hmm. And you just have to suffer through the learning experience that comes with those red flags. You need the job to level up your company and it's a bigger job or whatever. And sometimes you have to bite that bullet and do it. But then sometimes you don't. And that conversation, that inner dialogue with yourself, it's very important to listen to it and to have trusted people around you that you can say, hey, what do you think about this? Is this crazy or is this worth the risk? And sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. And that's business.
And also knowing yourself, talking about myself, am I strong enough to deal with somebody who wants to redline my contract?
Right.
Shaun might be, but I don't know if I have the boundaries to deal with that. Would you do it now? If that happened now, would you say no?
Who, me or Shaun?
Well, you.
I'm from the streets.
No, but see that? Yeah, I know. I love it. You're good. All right, Lakewood.
Yeah, really? Not even.
I would never. There's non-negotiables now for sure. And the boundaries have become a lot easier because of those situations. So once again, I'm grateful for them. It was a huge learning process, a 3-year learning process, but learning nonetheless. And you can take it and bitch about it the whole time, which I did a lot. And my poor employees, we sat around that table. We have this little goat that we press every time we're just super irritated with a client. Sometimes that goat was just bleeding forever. But at the end of it all, I'm stoked because I can look back and be like, all right, these are the things I learned and I'm never going to do these things again. And it's always evolving. I don't care how good you are at whatever you're doing. There's always lessons that come with every project. And some are big lessons and some are little lessons and some are, lifelong clients and some are one-timers, So it's interesting,
I know it's so hard, doing the red flag list or whatever. Cause I've tried to do that with myself. I'm like, okay, this time, if this client is saying they just want somebody to collaborate with, before I'm like, that's a red flag. So I'm only going to do consulting with them. But then it just happened to me recently and it turned this, I'm in this project and it's fantastic. She has a budget, the project has grown. I should have pitched it as a full service new build to begin with, but I mean, it's fine, but I don't know. It's like too hard. There's no black and white with some of those rules that you can just be too firm on. So I don't know. I feel like you just have to cross your fingers and hope for the best a lot of the time.
Yeah, for sure. And when it's going sideways, you're just like, all right, there's a reason for all of this. And then that gets you through it.
And can you put it off on your team? Like,
oh, I try. I'm like, who wants to make this phone call today? And they're like, come on.
Yeah, like sometimes you're just like, well, I'm sorry, I'm pulling the boss card. Like, one of you has to deal with this. Like, I take enough, I like hold back the wave from you guys on a lot of stuff, but no, this time, like, I'm not
or we're
fighting
good
with this
cop,
part.
bad
Like,
copying it.
yeah,
and
yeah.
This time you have to be bad cop because I have to be able to sell this next phase or whatever.
God, I know. It's exhausting, honest to God, making so many decisions like all the time that are like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sometimes I'm like, you guys, I'm tired of making the choice. Can somebody else make it? I don't want to do it right now. Because,
are you mainly like the creative director of what you're doing for all your projects still? Like, you're really like invested in each of them at a very high, like
overly invested. I sleep and dream about these projects. I think about fireplace reveals and I think about mitered returns and tile intersections and dams and thresholds. And I'm like, I want to care less because it would be nice. But then also I think that it's reflected in my work, the fact that I'm sleeping and dreaming about projects, but I've learned how to delegate and offload quite a bit with my team, which is tough as a person who's a creative, and these are my babies. And you do feel like you're sending a child off to college at the end of these projects, like you're like, I've been here for so many years with it, growing it. And then there it goes. I don't get to come back and visit it every day anymore. It's a very strange experience, at least for me, it is. So like to hand off like the control to somebody else, the design control, it was tough for me, but I'm getting better.
What parts have you gotten better at handing off?
Mostly, well, honest to God, the most recent thing, I hired a woman at the beginning of the year and she's been dealing with all the furniture, like designing all of that. And that I realized I'm like a construction designer. I like the architecture the most. And so I'll do that all day. The furniture I love as well, but I don't it's not like I'm really like, yes, let's talk about the textiles,
You're not dreaming
like,
about that.
Nope, not in my dreams, kind of in my nightmares, actually. So it's perfect. She loves it and she's really good at it. I'm like, okay, this is awesome. Like, you love this and you're crushing this. And so she's got a lot of autonomy to put together something. And I'm like, sold, I will buy this, so it's great,
And has it elevated what Ausland Interiors is doing?
Yes, for sure. 100%.
Because if she's dreaming about it, then it's going to be better.
It's going to be better. Yeah.
Yeah. We all have our lanes, and I can't drive in all four lanes, at the same time.
Right. Even though technically you can.
We're back and forth, baby. One of the lanes will be empty at one point, but just do that highway patrol back and forth move that they do.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I think that's smart. Like, the thing that isn't bringing you joy and excitement, like not get rid of it, but like back away from it. Let someone else get in there, especially if you still are really involved, because like you're working on Full Home now, but it didn't start as that and you were still just as heavily involved at that point. Do you think that some of that is driven by like your technical skill and like design background, like your schooling background? Like, do you feel like that's why you still want to stay in it? Or what do you think keeps you the most involved in that?
The most involved in the architecture and the most involved in like ground ups?
Like the whole construction side of it and everything.
I
like,
think
why
it's
do you still
just
want it?
it's just what I've always loved since I was a little girl. Like I've shared before that I was the girl who was buying like Architectural Digest magazines when I was little and like studying blueprints instead of reading Teen Bop, and like I love space planning and I love architecture and I can close my eyes and visualize exactly what it is I want them to do and how it should come together. And it's my language that I speak. It's like, that's it. I'm very fluid in this language, and so I love it. It's like in my bones. I can't.
Would you ever want to like study architecture more specifically? And
I wanted to. I did. I took a lot of architecture classes, but there was a lot of math involved. And I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, like on my fingers, like I have a picture of a ruler behind my desk. And actually it's become really great. It's a measuring, like a tape measure, a 1 inch. And it's like the 1/16, the 1/8, the 3/8, because like I cannot retain those like conversions. And like math numbers is not my language. So, and I know my lane, like I said. And so architecture was a little daunting with math. So
I know, but don't you think like those big architects, like they don't have a computer? Like,
I don't know.
Like Frank Gehry, you mean? Like the really big one? But like the average one, like the ones working on like most of our jobs do.
Yes. Like, they have to. Yes,
and they probably still log into CAD.
I guess what I mean by that is like there is a level of like creative, like I don't know, but probably like you could operate at a higher level and have the engineers like actually doing the things to make it stand up.
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist. I don't know how this works. Yeah.
I don't know how that works. Okay, never mind. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think as I've been in business for so long, I realize like you try a little bit of everything, right? Like I know you guys have talked a lot about like, oh, you think you want to open a store, an e-commerce store, right? And like you'll try that out, or I think you grow by trying new things. And I love ground up. Honestly, I really love remodels. Like I love when there's something that you have to work around and you have to become super creative, and you have to have a little bit of compromising mentality that it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be everything you envision. And you're going to come up with like the best case scenario for what you got. The quirky old 100-year-old cottages, which I'm working on one in Arrowhead right now. And it's like a dream come true. I love it because there's a forgiveness that comes with the design. It's like, well, there's a weird ass soffit up there that we cannot do anything about because it's the roof line, but we're just going to roll with it and we're going to be okay with it.
Yeah.
And I love that little spirit.
Sometimes boundaries are freeing. Like
totally.
I'm sorry, I can't touch that. So now we can only consider like these other 50% of the ideas because that cut off half of the funnel. So like 100%. Now it's narrowed down. Like like let's move on. Sorry. Like
I love it. It's great. You're right.
But when you're trapped in a box and you have to design your way out of it, I feel like that's when you get like the scrappiest and most creative versus like, I'm just out in this wide open field. It could be anything. Yeah. Like that's harder sometimes, at least for me.
100%. I love it. You guys agree? That's the only weirdo like that. I love this.
No, I'd rather have some limit. Like the anything is possible is just like, well, I have an infinite number of ideas then. Like, what do you want from me? Which one? Like,
which equals no ideas.
Yeah, because I'm going to get paralyzed by that and realize like, well, I don't know, make the entertainment center 10 feet bigger, I guess. Like, what do you want? Like, if I could pick any size room or like any option possible. So I do like, and you're working within parameters too, because where you're building in like the South Bay here in Los Angeles, like there's property lines. These aren't like 8-acre properties. Like,
there's definitely parameters. For sure.
And they're like by the beach. So there's coastal commission guidelines and there's height restrictions. Like there's still limits on what they can do with the property. But then you get into the fun parts of like, well, then what can we fit within those like dotted lines that we have to like push in? What can we do? Like, sorry, do you want the like upstairs living space or do you want the rooftop deck? Because the city's going to only approve one. So like, tell me which one you want and I'll make it the best possible version for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take a break to talk about Mo's home collection.
Mo's just released their 2024 spring and summer collection, and it includes 300 plus new intros, and they're calling it their tailored and timeless collection.
Yeah, when you go through the lookbook, there's all this like new sort of like vintage and then European and some really like classic shapes that have been updated. It's some really new stuff that is like very different.
Yeah, I got the link and I sent it to you and I was pretty impressed and blown away. Not that I haven't always loved their stuff, but it's so unique. Hello, they're using color on their furniture fabrics, which seems to be impossible to find lately.
Yes. Yeah, their design team definitely leveled it up. There's some really cool creations that feel like elegant but inviting.
And I think that term tailored is perfect because there's some like beds with skirting on it. Just really beautiful.
Oh yeah, the pleated skirt chairs. Oh my God.
Yes.
So you guys are really good.
They're box pleated. Yeah, they're so cute.
Yes. So if y'all are going to be at Market, either Vegas or High Point, it's definitely worth making a stop at Moe's showrooms. They're beautiful and they've got tons of the pieces there when you get to Market.
And if you don't have an account, you can register at moshomecollection.com/HYDC. I know you started with a real love of vintage, which we share. How are you incorporating it in these new builds? Do you get to anymore?
Well, I joke all the time that my company name should be NFS because I buy so much stuff. And my studio it's literally just full of all my vintage things and I don't sell them. I'm like a hoarder.
It's really hard.
It's hard, you
It's a
know?
bad habit, but you got it.
It is. I was just in Peru and I bought a really dope copper handmade lantern for myself. I carried it home on the airplane like a baby. And I got home and I was like, you know what? I should sell this. And I'm going to pitch it to my client to put it in her ante room, which is actually her Amazon package room. So it was like, this kind of would be amazing. You'd walk by it every day and see it sitting in the next to the packages and it would be beautiful. And I'm like, I'm going to let it go. So I'm working on it. I incorporate mostly like I love studying old pieces and like old homes and a lot of the old designs are what are reflected in the way I operate now currently.
In the millwork and
yeah, I take a lot of cues from history. So I think that it's always like a good place to fall back on. And so being surrounded by pieces that have soul and character, it's just kind of helps me get into a good place to design. And I am working. I have the dream has always been to have a little vintage store online, you know, but like things just get pushed to the back burner, you know, because life is happening around me and 4 kids and just jobs and life. I don't have time to put into it and I could easily hire somebody, but I don't know.
And you'd have to sell the things.
I know, which I'm really working on doing. But I buy them and then I'm like, I can stage a photo shoot with them and then sell them. And I've done that a lot. I've done that and it's great. And I want people to love the pieces. I want to know where they're going. I'm kind of weird like that.
Right,
Like I want to know who's buying it.
Yeah.
And where are you putting it and how much love is it going to get? And
is it going to be appreciated?
Yeah. Rehoming. Like you had a litter of dogs and now you're like, hold on, I have to do a full background check on you before I let you take one of these puppies.
Oh my God, or like, ridiculous, but accurate.
Will you preserve like the story and the provenance of this piece? Like I know, like I heard the backstory from the vendor, so I know whose like mom brought it from Hungary like 50 years ago. Like, I want to keep the story alive, and so I know I'll like safeguard it. But will this next person? Probably not. They hired a designer, so they probably don't care about that stuff like we do.
Yeah, like people who are like, "Well, I saw something like this that you have at Home Goods," and I'm like, "Excuse me, like those are fighting words. Like what? this is no Home Goods over here, you know." Which
not
no knocking
me.
on Home Goods, but you know.
But I feel like maybe I'm making this up. But do you find like cool little vendors too? Like, don't you have a story about a hardware, like a brass person?
Oh, you're replating the plating guy.
Yes. And you know what's a bummer? He had a fire in his shop.
No.
But I loved it. I had never had an education in brass plating before, and I still don't get it because I'm no chemist. But he was like dipping things and showing me what would happen, and he was lovely.
Like
he was and he was super quirky. Obviously, I mean, he's sitting around with his chemicals all day, and he didn't have time to do the job. He was like, well, I'm gonna, you know. It was just one of those things where I was like, how are you making a living? You know, but he was, I guess, I don't know. But it was great. But I think he had a fire and I think he closed up shop.
So is that still, because you were having something, what were you having plated?
I was having a tub drain plated to match the Newport brass faucet because all MTI made was this heinous, like shiny white guy. And we were like, that's not going to work. So we use, trying to make it clever. So
I'm wondering if there's, because I just feel like those kinds of places. I know there's like a brass shop that I see people go to in Paris sometimes. Have you ever seen this?
Ooh, no.
And it's like all these brass fittings and details, like this tiny little shop, and it's like rods and I don't know, but it's all like true
Fun.
brass. So I just feel like those places are just really hard to find in the world. So, and I think LA has a lot of those secret old timers still.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think they're out there.
There's like less and less of them, thanks environmental laws, but
Thanks,
like
poison
yeah,
control.
yeah, exactly. Like I think of like that battery plant that was like right by a major residential area, and they were like, the battery plant's been here since the 30s, and it's like, and it's been poisoning the community since the 30s. Like we only now know how bad some of this stuff is,
Yeah,
and
it's like, where's Aaron Brockovich when
yeah,
we
like
need her? Like,
the little smelting shop, yeah, like that stuff. Like sometimes it's fine, and other times, like there's a reason why we want them in industrial areas and like not near schools and people. But yeah,
yeah, I just think you do a really good job of making these new builds feel like they have soul. Like, I think that's your like gift and your art. So,
Thank you. It's hard. It's hard in these new homes too to do that. It's a challenge to get people on board with shrinking ceiling heights when they can have 14-foot ceiling heights. And I'm like, yeah, but do we really want that tall of a ceiling height? I don't think so.
oh
Like
yeah, like
it's like
can
human
we have a
scale.
doorway? Yeah.
do we need 9-foot doors? I mean, and I know a lot of people love that. And that's a total vibe for a lot of people. But I'm always questioning, like, well, you see my work. So when you hire me, like, are we going to argue about all these things? Like, you see, this is what I do. This is my lane is pretty consistent. So,
Yeah,
like, if you call me and you're like, I want this, and it's interesting, but everybody has their own style, and I respect all styles, but I like what I like, and so
Well, you're going to
I,
do the best work with
yeah,
your style. Yeah.
how would
yeah.
you describe your style?
Like old school, in one word. Like it's like I like old, charmy, soulful feeling things. And I try to translate that through bones of the house. The bones of the house are super important, and like timeless. And sometimes I find myself telling clients, like, I know you might think this looks boring, but this is going to last forever. You're not going to get tired of it. You're not going to call me in 5 years and be like, yeah, I was really going through a phase with this tile. And,
Mhm.
I'm so bummed I put it in my kitchen backsplash. I'm like, I don't want people to call me and say that.
Mhm.
I find that people end up mostly coming back to the same simple formula. And I'm okay with that. Like I like that. And not everybody does. And like I said, we all have our lanes,
Yeah.
so it works for me, and it's a lot of money that we put into these homes, and I want the value to go as far as possible for
Yeah,
people. So,
I've seen that like from your work of like a much more like old world appeal has
Mhm.
sort of grown. And I know some of that is like stylistically, like there's stuff like that that's growing in popularity of this like kind of European, Belgian influence, like a little bit of
mhm.
French influence. And like I noticed that in your work of like how you're a proponent for like double thickness walls, like
Yep.
not single, not the little like 4.5 depth only. Like if you've got the space and you can give up the square footage, like double it up, make it even beefier on like an entryway or a barrel vaulted ceiling or something, like making a kind of adding something special to each space that you're working in without it feeling like you overcomplicated the design. Like it's not every element. It's just, if we can, let's just make this feel more special. Sure, it's just a
Yeah.
hallway, but it's going to be
Yeah.
the coolest hallway we can make it without
Totally.
blowing your budget. Like, but it should feel special. You're going to be in here multiple times a day, every day of your life from here on out.
Yeah. And I think one of the main conversations I have with clients all the time is they come to me with their Pinterest board and there's like 100 different trendy things on there. And I'm like, listen, we're going to have one Beyonce of the room and the rest are
Yes.
Kelly Rowlands. And
Mhm.
you have to pick which is your Beyonce. Is it the herringbone floor? Is it going to be the barrel vaulted ceiling? Which now saying this, you probably could put all these together and do it tastefully, but you have to edit, and
Mhm.
I find that when I edit it a little bit down further and further, that then when you add like the removable layers, then it really all harmonizes together, you know, and then your Destiny's Child. But when you have 4 Beyoncés and you're doing all the trendy things, it
Right.
looks like an application and it just never translates quite right. And you're kind of like, oh, this is like a spec home. Like this isn't that cute, you know? So
Yeah. I'm glad you talked. Okay. I'm really glad you just brought up the spec home of it all because how many of your projects that you're working on are typically spec home?
I'm only working on one spec home right now.
Okay.
And I'm working with a builder who I love working with because he's like, yeah, do your thing. He likes to
Wow.
spend money. He knows quality finishes. He is down. And I appreciate that. But not all spec builders are the same. A lot of them are obviously budget driven and so is he. But you know, a lot of them recognize that they could build that same white house with black windows in my town. And any average American is like, I love this. This is beautiful.
Right.
And they do. And they typically are. But sometimes they're not like completely well built. They cut corners on all the materials and the insulation and the flooring is cheap and the, you know, windows are the cheapest low budget. And I know that. I recognize it, but most people who come in through the house don't know that. And they don't care about those things. But when we have a custom build, we educate our clients on it. And it's like, listen, you're going to throw a bunch of money into windows. They're going to last forever and they're going to look good, you know?
And they're work.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, spec homes are tricky though, you know, and I understand the motive for the bottom right-hand corner to be like the driving force. But like, I have a hard time wrapping my mind around just being money motivated, you know, like I care about what is in my community and like what is going to be here for another 100 years. And so many houses are being torn down around me.
Yeah.
And it's sad, you know, because it's like these are good homes. They just need a little bit of loving, you know, they don't need to be scraped so that you can maximize the square footage and, you know, get the best resale value. And like that is the topic in my town. Like that's all people really care about. And I feel like I'm one of like the minority who wants to buy an old home and literally leave the bones and just fix it up and have like the most expensive yard on the planet in the backyard and not over maximize the square footage, you know?
Yeah. Like
So
you're talking about putting a house in its best outfit for a night on the town instead of a complete like ground up plastic surgery or just a full on clone and replace. Like
yeah, yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
There's so
Totally.
much beauty in the beachside towns that I think it's like really like lost some of it because the beach towns used to be for like the weirdos and the hippies and like
more bohemian.
yeah, like Malibu used to have a ton of trailers. Like it used to be a lot of mobile homes that were parked up out on the beaches in Malibu. Like it was the people that no one wanted to be, but now all the squares have moved in and they're all like buttoned up tech bros and people, which,
tech
you know,
money.
that's great. But
I'm not jealous or anything.
there's less of the weird, there's less of like the cool towny beach people
The
left
quirky.
around. Yeah. Like the guy with the parrot on his shoulder doesn't live there anymore. Like,
yeah, the tie-dye flags are all put away.
yeah. I don't
They're
know. I feel like
banned.
there's still a space for that. But yeah, they're definitely an endangered species of types of beach town homeowners, especially here in LA. So everybody
Hermosa
with
Beach
money.
is little beach bungalows, you know, and they're going away by the moment.
Remember when no one wanted to live in like Riviera Village or Hermosa? Like that was like, oh, you went too far. Like even Redondo was like, well, it's not Manhattan. And then now like everyone, it's just like slowly making its way until they hit the peninsula. And then the peninsula throws up like a big fence and says, go away.
Yeah.
Like
Old money, you're welcome.
Yeah. That's pretty much how
new
it
tech
is.
money.
I do want to ask you this. Share how much you want to share.
Okay.
Are you charging hourly or flat rate for projects like this?
Oh boy, have I tried all those. I listened to a million podcasts on this too. And I've talked to every designer that I know about it. And I think the only way to figure out what works best for you is to trial and error it, you know, and like having been in business for so many years, I've tried it. I will never do a flat rate again, ever. Like your time is definitely less valued by the clients and the efficiency of the job, I think works better when you're on the hourly. And I make more money on the hourly for sure. For sure. But the problem is keeping track of the hours. I suck at that. Admittedly.
Right.
I'm terrible at it. And I give my clients a lot of freebies, you know, like I'm like, all right, I'm in a design meeting, I know what I'm doing. But if I'm emailing back and forth, like I don't keep track of it 100%.
Yeah.
And, my team does. And so I know that I'm billing significantly less than I should be, but I'm okay with it. Like I know we're making money and I could be better about it. But I also tell the clients, like, you're getting a lot out of me, and it's, you're welcome.
And you're still making more. And like with that, when you say that, you're still making more than what you were on flat rate by
Yes.
even not getting to track all of your time. You're
Yes,
still confident.
100%.
Like, nope, I'm still making more money anyway.
Absolute. For sure. For sure.
What about furniture? Like, I know you've experimented with that a little bit too. Do you have any contractual obligations for clients?
I don't know. I've gone back and forth on this too. And I know a lot of designers have a minimum, and I totally am like, God, I respect that. And I get it. Like there's times where you understand why people operate the way that they do. And for a long time, I haven't had a furniture minimum, and I still don't. And it's like, listen, I'd rather you take your construction loan and every single penny that you have to throw into this build, and let's put it into the build. I want you to have the better floors, the better windows, the better subs working on your project. And then at the end of it, if you can't afford furniture, fuck it. Let's beanbag it for a while until your husband bonus is out, and then we can buy furniture proper. You know what I mean? I don't mind that game. I really don't care. Sometimes they do, but usually when you tell somebody they can't do something, then they want to do it more. I've found that bites me in the butt, but I don't mind them moving in without furniture. It's kind of nice, actually. Then you take a breath at the end and you're like, okay. And then I'm like, live in the space a little bit. You've never even lived here before. You don't even know what you don't even know yet. You haven't even operated a single morning routine in here.
Yeah.
Like, just live in it. Be prudent with your cash. Let's just figure it out and see what works. You thought you wanted a sectional, but actually you want 2 sofas or whatever, And I think a little bit of like patience goes a long way, but nobody ever really wants to play it my way. They want to just do it and they want it done. And I get that too. But I'm more of a believer that like good things take time to build, and the best things take, a really good amount of time.
Slow design.
Yeah, I like slow design. I don't like it super fast and super completely A to Z done. Like I like it when it's like curated over time, and I'm like, listen, I'm going to the flea market in a couple months. Like I know what I need to find you. Let me look for that piece, and I prefer that method. And I have a few clients who are down for that, and it's great. And then I have the clients who are like, no, I want it done. I want the HGTV moment. We're going to do it. And I'm like, okay, we'll do it. No problem.
It's so funny hearing you say that, because I feel like that's so opposite from what a lot of designers want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I wish I didn't want to slow roll it, because it's torturous. It's not great for,
financially too, like being able to get the house completely furnished.
And like get your whole paycheck and get out.
Yes, totally. But I didn't get into this business to like make a living. Like I said, like I started doing this because it was like, I loved it, and I didn't need to work when I first started. I just liked it. And now obviously I need to work. It's a whole different thing, but it's still the core of how I operate never changed. And I try to care less about things like in that sense. Like I try to put that business hat on a little bit more, because it's better, for my business, but I struggle with that because I'm more on the opposite. I really do care more about the functionality of how my clients are going to experience life in their home,
Is that something you could see like peeling off to a staff member at some point? Like, let me get out of the way and you guys make this happen? Because, it seems like if your nature would be to let's just like let this evolve over the next few years, but then sometimes it doesn't actually pan out, right? Like,
true. Very true.
Move on or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if I'm always thinking of like, how can I get help for the things that I'm struggling with? But it's not that it's a struggle, but just from a income standpoint.
Yeah, a more effective standpoint as well. And that is, I think, the way that the tides turn with my latest employee that I've hired. She's, like I said, she loves furniture. And so she's like, let's do it all. And she does. She's like, no, let's figure this out now. And if you have a vintage piece, give it to me and we'll put it in there now. You don't have 4 months to go shop around, Ashley.
Right.
So like you need to get paid. Like she's taking on that burden that you wouldn't want to do, and she can help fill in that gap of something.
For
Because
sure.
if it feels
And
like
you'll-
forced to you, then yeah, somebody else would wouldn't. What about photography? Like, how are you doing that if it's not furnished?
Yeah, that's a bitch. For sure.
Ah.
Always thinking
I've had to stage a couple homes for photography, and I'm always like, why do I do this again? Like, why don't I make everybody just buy all the furniture at once? That's when I have those conversations with myself.
Yeah.
And at the end of it all, though, I'm like, I go through the motions and I do the hard staging and photography, like setting up the photography and all that stuff. And it's exhausting. But then I
Yeah.
see exactly what it is that I wanted.
You've
and
made
I'm
no
like,
compromises. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. It's like my art, like I'm into
Totally.
it. The clients don't live like this, but this is exactly what it should look like, and I'm okay with it. It's harder. It's definitely the harder path for sure.
No, I've
but
done that too. Yeah.
I don't know.
But you
That's
want
why
your
you gotta
beautiful
keep-
photos.
And that's why you got to keep hoarding your stuff.
Yeah. And also, I don't design the houses for the clients to not like it. If they want that live, love, laugh, they're going to have it up there.
Right.
And I'm going to take it down. If that's the thing, I'm not
Yeah.
going to be the one to tell them, yeah, we're not going to put that in there because of my Instagram or my
Your baby's
portfolio.
ugly.
I'm like,
Yeah, take down the family photos. Like,
We're not doing the canvas family photo over the fireplace. Like,
ugh.
no.
Let's
damn,
put your
how do you tell somebody
3
that?
by
though?
5 wedding portraits above the Thank you.
Oh my God.
we just had a hottie hangout where we were talking about this, and there's different ways. Yeah, like someone's client was like, "Oh, did you not like my art?" Because she had replaced it for photos. But yeah, you could just say, "Oh, editorially, we want to give
Yeah,
you
you
privacy."
default on that editor.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
always
so
the
sorry.
editor.
Oh yeah, they won't publish it with art they can't credit properly. Sorry. Like
That's a good one.
That is good.
It's
that's
gotta
what
be
I would be
minted.
saying. Like,
Gotta
oh
be
well,
public domain.
yeah, they have to have licensing for that and they don't want to negotiate with it. And I'm just gonna blame it on the edit. That's me.
Oh, God, the struggle is so real with that.
But also, like,
Well-
what I also take away from that, just from like my standpoint, with you being really clear about it and honest about it, is that like someone else looks at what you got published in Brew Magazine and they don't understand how much work. And so there's a baby designer who's out there who's hearing this for the first time and realizing that, yeah, like you still are working really hard to put your best foot forward and to show people what you want to produce. And if, say, some potential future client of yours is listening to this, like, they are also going to hear the reality of like, hey, if you really want the full and complete, like you're going to have to be really in it in order to get that, because that doesn't just happen. It doesn't just get created for free, and it costs a lot of money to build homes like this and to do the projects that you're putting out there. So
It takes
hopefully they take
time.
the reality away from it, where they see like, oh, I have to really invest. Like I can't be joking around.
Yeah. I think until you reach a place in your career, and I do have clients who we have completed it all the way and we're not staging it a ton, but until you reach like that place, like that's the reality for a lot of designers,
Yeah. It's for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I appreciate like you being, just open that it's still evolving. You're still figuring things out. There's always
Yeah.
trial and error as everything changes and the economy changes, your team changes, your life changes.
Yeah, the desire to do things change. Like I
Oh,
photographed
yeah.
my Power Street project a couple months ago, and I'm just sitting on like 1,000 photos of heaven. They're gorgeous photos, and I'm just like, whatever. Like I just because
Oh
I
my
don't
God.
have the
Wait,
time.
we're not gonna. It's not because
You
it's.
will. But
Oh, okay.
we're figuring it out, and I'm just like, whatever. Like I'm not in any rush to like do
Is
anything
it that?
anymore.
Because I totally relate to this. Like I'm sitting on photos. It's not as giant of a project as that, but it's one of my bigger projects. And I have this thing where I don't want to share them after I'm done. Like I'm doing the same thing. Like vendors are like, "What happened to that project we finished?" I'm like, "It's just in my drive." They're
No, you're
done.
nesting with it. You're nesting. It's like a baby. You're nesting
Yeah.
right now.
I don't know.
Like,
To me, I get like,
So
I don't know, embarrassed or something. Like
oh
not
no!
of the
Why,
work.
Rebecca? I love your work. It's so
Not
cute.
of the work, just
that.
like, oh God, everyone's gonna like it. I don't know. It's like
Ugh.
being
Everyone's
the
gonna enjoy it. Ugh.
And I'm gonna have to say thank you 100 times. Like it's like I don't want someone to sing happy birthday to me either. I don't know. This is
Oh
a
my
personal
God.
problem.
Oh my God.
One time my brother had a blow up in a restaurant. It was in an Olive Garden when we were like 17 or something. And he was so embarrassed because my mom told him it was our birthday. And he was just like, he had
Oh,
a
God.
breakdown. And so now, like, yeah, the happy birthday thing is triggering. Like, great. Thank you. Thank you so thanks. Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
XOXO. Like, it's
thanks.
like, but also you want it to go wild and you want people to see it. It's
Of
just,
course. No, it's
yeah.
You just don't like that initial attention.
I don't know what it is. It's something I'm like really working through. I also don't like finishing things. So I do relate to you like
Mhm.
wanting to like keep evolving a house. I don't like things to feel closed or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I get you. I'm with you,
So
girl.
You're going to get
yeah.
there. I mean, like you paid for the photos and you did
No, the
it. So it's like,
project
it has to happen. Like it will happen is the
the
thing.
project
Like,
will be published on Rue Magazine's website and by the time this comes out. So no,
Can't
it's going
wait.
out.
the
Yeah.
world will get to
I
see
pitched
what
it.
you've done.
Nice.
And hopefully Ashley's project because that
It
one's
will.
amazing.
My employees are on it. I'm not on
Okay.
it. Somebody else is
Yeah,
on it
so
for
this is
me. Yeah.
this is where
No,
we
it'll
just
be
gotta
great.
get out of the way.
Yeah, I do. I need to get out of my own way for sure.
What do you think's in store for you guys beyond just that publishing or getting that project out there? What's like, if you're looking ahead another 2 years, another 4 years, what do you like hopes, dreams, goals?
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about what I want my next couple years to look like. Honestly, I would love to like not make so many decisions, but that's not my reality. But I'm trying to think what truly like do I love to do
Mhm.
and which part of this process do I want to do more of?
Mm-hmm.
And now that I have people in the right places to alleviate some aspects, like I want to try to get into different positions like for myself. I've been working on trying to cultivate my own tile line, to be quite honest with you.
Ooh.
Ooh.
And yeah, and I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Like I don't know. Like I don't know if it's gonna work or not, but I'm gonna give it a try. And because I'm always specking the same freaking like denim looking tile. And I'm like, I just need to like have my own. People ask me all the
Mhm.
time, and I'm tired of crediting somebody else. Like I could just I want to be better business, you know, and I'm trying to do that. I just like, I'm a slow burn of a person. And I'm just focused on my personal life equally as much. But I think taking on, I think smaller jobs in the future is something I want to do.
Love that for you.
And I have a lot of repeat clients right now, which I'm loving.
Nice.
And working on actually getting a store-ish type of something together. Like I have, it's all there. It's just me getting out of my own way again, you know, and actually like committing, moving forward with things that I've had on the frickin' to-do list, perpetual to-do list for, 5 years.
Forever.
But you're making
Yeah.
moves. Like you have to have help to do all of that
Yeah.
stuff. So you're
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah.
You're-
Now that the personal life calmed a little, I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I got this. I can put my business hat fully back on now. So
I'm excited. I
yeah,
want to hear more about that tile when it's happening.
I know. I'm excited too. I hope it works out. See how it goes.
I'm
That sounds awesome.
just here for you to have some more passive income. That's
I
the
know.
dream for so
Right?
many designers.
I know. I'm working towards that.
The hustle
Yeah.
game is real. You're doing a lot. You're doing like literally the most. Just so you're aware, like the literal most, and like keeping your family together and like trying to
Happy
raise
and
well-adjusted
thriving. Yeah.
people. Like
Yeah, it
it's
is a lot.
it's a whole thing. So it's very like reasonable to like give yourself space to accomplish all those things and like have room for it. And I think that we're fans. We're like OG status. We're always going to root for what you're doing. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm your fan and your fan. I love you guys.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, well, we need a market reunion.
we're going to have
Oh, I
some
know.
beers at
We're
in
gonna,
market.
yeah. And I literally thank you guys so much for being the people to turn me on to having a bathtub in my hotel room when I go to
Oh,
market.
yeah.
Oh,
It's a done deal. I cannot do it without.
I
Thank
know.
you. You guys are both my pioneers.
It's a
We're here
must.
for you.
It's a must-have situation.
Yeah.
We're here for the bougie upgrades.
Ugh, love it. Thank you guys.
Yeah. Do you want to tell our listeners where they can keep up with you and find you?
Yes, I am hot and cold on Instagram these days. I love it. I swear to God, it's just a very organic, like no pressure, people. Just post when you feel like it.
Yeah.
On at Ausland Interiors on Instagram, Pinterest. That's my website. It's all the same.
It's all the same spot. Yeah.
All the
I think they're
same.
going to love it. And they're going to love keeping up with you too.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Good first podcast experience.
Oh, yeah.
Yay.
See, first timers.
Yeah. Say yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ashley. And until next time.
Stay hot, designers.
Thanks for listening to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
For more on what we talked about today, check out the show notes.
Your support helps us grow, so share with your design besties.
And subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
Our conversations continue on Instagram.
And be sure to download our monthly resources on our website and our Patreon.